Hello, this is Michael Leeserman here with the Trial Guide's tip of the day this Wednesday, August 16, 2023. Today's tip comes from the classic David Ball on Damages. If you don't have this book, go out and order it now. And we also have with us the classic David Ball himself to read today's tip. Hello, David.
How are you feeling? Very classic. I should have worn my classical clothing. And I should read this, and I'm going to read this to y'all. Okay. Jurors cannot gauge the full weight of the harm unless you get them to walk in your client's shoes. If you do not, they measure the harm by how it feels to an observer, not to the harmed person. What that means is there is no greater pain in the world than mine. And there is no lesser pain than someone else's, unless it happens to be someone you're very, very close to. Pain is a peculiar beast. People actually have less empathy for pain than they do for a lot of other things that your client has lost. Anxiety is worse. Being alone, being lonely, being stuck in one place. And pain does not register as high as we think it does on the empathy scale. And that might be because it's very hard to find people who never have any pain. It's common to everybody. The knee-jerk reaction is, well, I'm in pain, or my mother's in pain, or whatever, and nobody's giving her all that money. Until you get them to identify personally with what it is like now to be that person, what that does to their lives, how it feels to be them. You've got to be very careful doing this because you don't want to violate the golden rule by saying to the jurors, how much money would you want if this happened to you? However, you can say, this is how it feels to be who she is when she has to measure how much pain she can take before she gets up to walk across the room, for example. Another really good way to do this is, if you've been to the Spence Ranch, they and other people teach a way of telling that story as a first-person account through your client's eyes. And there are some excellent examples of that. I would caution you, if you use a first-person narrative, to make sure you test it in focus groups or with other people, because sometimes you can really alienate a jury by doing it. And I don't know how to generalize which ones work and which ones don't. But I've known those personal first-person narratives actually lose cases for people. However, if you can make it work, if you can test it, if you're comfortable with it, it's very powerful. Any way you conceive of doing this, if they have to wear a brace of some sort that's painful to wear, pass it around the jury. Let the jury try it on. Let them see what it's like to have to wear that on their knee for 4 minutes, 1 minute, and your client has to wear it all the time. Anything you can do to cross the bridge from somebody else's pain to a pain the juror personally understands with. Because what we're accustomed to doing in everyday life is, when someone else is in pain, we distance ourselves from it. You know how human beings distance themselves from the concept of death? We don't really like to confront the fact that we are all someday going to die, and I'm sorry to have just reminded you. But we do the same thing with pain. We distance ourselves from pain. We don't imagine what it's like to feel what they're feeling. So you need to do some work to bridge that gap. And how to do that is a little more help in the book, and certainly a lot more than I can provide in the 3 or 4 minutes. But that's a fundamental thing that makes an enormous difference. And I would start, if I were you, especially if you're relatively new to the practice, start looking at the closings, maybe the openings too, of the lawyers who do really, really well when it comes to damages. And try to spot, what are they doing that helps them cross the membrane, like the blood-brain barrier, that helps them cross the membrane from someone else's pain to the juror themselves, bearing in mind to never say to a jury, how would you feel if this happened to you? How much money would you want? Don't do it.
Absolutely groundbreaking. I remember when I first learned that from you, jurors don't give money for pain, just the pain alone. That, wow, doesn't that go against everything I thought I knew? And it does, and it's one of the reasons that your advice has been so helpful to me and so many others. Jurors aren't going to give money for pain, but they will give money if they see how that pain affects someone, how that pain changes them, and what good giving the verdict is gonna do. Can it help take away the pain? And if not, what good does the money do? Which is,
And there's a chapter on damages evolving that deals with what good does the money do that might be useful to look at in that regard.
yeah. So, wonderful. Thank you for this wisdom, this middle of the week in August. Thank you for being here, David.
Sure. Thanks, Michael. Good to see you.
Let's take a deep breath together and be grateful to be alive this Wednesday. May we work today to help reduce suffering in the world. May our efforts as lawyers and as people help to repair the world. May we fiercely and compassionately advocate for our clients, champion their stories, and do so from a place of compassion. I'm going to ring a bell now. This can take you into a meditation practice, a prayer practice, or just remind you, wake up, it's Wednesday. Go out, do good things, and have fun while you're doing it.